So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing who I think is the favorite to win the NFC before the NFL draft. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. So with the NFL draft just a few weeks away, I thought it would be fun to discuss which NFC team I think is the favorite to win the conference as of right now. Now, I know the NFL draft and the fact that there still could be trades that happen this offseason could change the way that this list goes. But as of right now, I have two teams that I personally think are the favorites to win the NFC as of right now. But if you look at the NFC as a whole and you compare it to the AFC, I think that the NFC is a much more tame conference than the AFC. It's definitely the weaker conference of the two. It felt like everything big that happened in the NFL this offseason mainly happened in the AFC, and a lot of it, in my opinion, most of it went to the AFC West. It was a huge offseason for the entire AFC as a whole, and if you're looking at the NFC, it's definitely the weaker conference of the two, and I really don't think it has as many contending teams, because I still think that the two teams, in my opinion, that are great are definitely the favorites. It's definitely a top-heavy conference still, and I think the teams below them, I really don't think those teams I would consider favorites, because I think the other teams just have too many issues. So there are a few teams that I don't find to be favorites, but I still think can make a lot of noise. First, let's look at the Dallas Cowboys. This offseason has not been good for the Dallas Cowboys. They lost a ton of good players: Randy Gregory, Cedric Wilson, Amari Cooper, La'el Collins. They lost a ton of great talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And it looks like CeeDee Lamb is going to be their number one wide receiver going into next year, which I don't know if CeeDee is going to be able to take that next step and become the number one guy. I like CeeDee Lamb. I think he's great. I just don't know if he has that capability right now in his career to take on that pressure of being the number one guy on the Dallas Cowboys. And then I still think the Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott contracts are hindering them. I think the Zeke Elliott contract's more of an issue than Dak, to be honest, because I think I would rather keep Dak's contract than Zeke, because Zeke as a running back is definitely getting overpaid. And I think at this point, Tony Pollard, in my opinion, is a much better running back than Zeke Elliott. So I think the Zeke Elliott contract, in my opinion, is a little bit of a hindrance towards that team and what they're able to do in the future, especially because of those two contracts. They moved off of Amari Cooper, which I thought was a mistake from the beginning. I understand he was, there was issues, but I still think the Dallas Cowboys scapegoated Amari Cooper. And then that loss to the 49ers in the wild card round, that might linger and might hurt the Dallas Cowboys. Like, that loss was the way that game ended, it was not a good way to end your season for the Cowboys. So that loss might linger on for the Dallas Cowboys. And then you have the Green Bay Packers, who I don't think right now are a favorite, but that's not to discredit Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks, definitely a top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now. I don't want to discredit Aaron Rodgers, but if you look at that receiving core that the Green Bay Packers have right now, Aaron Rodgers really doesn't have much to work with, and that might hold back the Green Bay Packers maybe all of next season, but I definitely think it's going to take a little bit before that receiving core can get on track and start becoming a legitimate threat week in and week out, because losing Davante Adams was huge for the Green Bay Packers. Losing arguably the best wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, never a good look, especially when you have no depth. When the entire offense is Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, it felt like it's a huge loss, and it's with Aaron Rodgers having nobody to throw to, I think that might hold them back just a little bit. But again, this is a team that I don't want to discredit. This is a team that I still think can be a legitimate threat and make a lot of noise, but as a favorite right now, I can't see it. But they have a really good defense. They still have Aaron Rodgers, and I think if the Packers are committed to becoming a legitimate threat, I think the Packers this draft have to make some big moves at wide receiver in particular, because Allen Lazard is your number one guy. I don't think is a good look going into the end of the season. But I don't want to discredit the Packers because they have Aaron Rodgers. But at the same time, the lack of receiving depth on that team does worry me a little bit with the Packers. And then the next team that I don't think is a contender but can make a lot of noise is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the thing with the Cardinals is they have to put a full season together. They haven't been able to do that the last couple of years, because they started great the last 2 years. They started off really hot. Kyler Murray played great. The offense was playing great. But they can't put a full season together. They can't finish late in the year. Like in 2020, they started off 6-3, finished that season 8-8. In 2021, they started 10-2, a great start to the season, but they finished the season 11-6, and then just a disappointing loss to the Rams in the first round of last year's playoffs. So the Cardinals, they're making steps every single year of getting better, but it's just, my worry is their lack of putting a full season together, which really hinders the Cardinals for me. It's like, it's becoming a worry with the head coach and maybe a little bit with Kyler Murray that this team isn't able to put a full season together, and that's really hard for me to buy in as them as a legitimate contender in the NFC. But again, if the Cardinals put a full season together, I think there can be a threat. But again, based off the last 2 years and how the seasons have played out, it's really hard to see the Cardinals as legitimate threats in the NFC right now. There's one team that I am on the fence about right now, though, and that is the 49ers. If the 49ers knew what they were doing with Jimmy Garoppolo and Deebo Samuel, I would easily put them as a favorite. Now, some people might think that's crazy, but I think it's true. Like, the 49ers, when they're a healthy football team, even with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback, they are a dangerous team year in and year out. 2019, they made it to the Super Bowl. Last year, they made it to the NFC Championship game. So the 49ers, when they're healthy, they are a team that nobody wants to mess with. Like, the regular season record may not be flashy, but look at the playoff run that they made. It was a great playoff run that they made, and they were close to making it to the Super Bowl again. They came up short against the Rams. So I really do think if the 49ers could figure out what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo and Deebo, I think they're going to be great. Like, their defense is an elite level group. Kyle Shanahan is just a masterful head coach. But again, I don't know what to make of the 49ers because I don't know what's going on with them and their key offensive players, mainly Deebo and Jimmy G. I just don't know what's going on there. So that's a team that I can't buy as not a favorite, but they're also a team that I can't give a favorite. This is a team that I'm definitely on the fence about, and it's hard to give a true evaluation of the 49ers right now. Which leads me to my two favorites in the NFC right now. And the first team I have is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, obviously, you can't count out Tampa Bay. They just got Tom Brady back. They were able to pry him out of retirement. He came back. And anytime you have Tom Brady as your starting quarterback, you're instantly a threat every single year to make it to the Super Bowl, contend in your division, contend in your conference. They have a free ride straight to the playoffs. Their division is garbage. Carolina, the Saints, and the Falcons, they have a free ride straight to the playoffs. They may even have a free ride straight to the #1 seed next year. Like, their conference is that, like, the conference is weak, but their division is so bad that you might as well just chalk up 6 free wins for the Buccaneers right there. But then you also look at their offseason. They still have a stellar defense. They were able to extend Chris Godwin. They have Mike Evans. They added Russell Gage as another receiving threat who had a good year with the Falcons last year after Calvin Ridley stepped away from football. So you have those 3 guys. They have a great receiving core. They brought back Leonard Fournette. So they have 4 very reliable guys. Now, the offensive line may need a little bit of work because of the things that have happened with guys retiring in the offseason. But again, Tom Brady as a quarterback, stellar defense, and the fact that this team was so close to making a Super Bowl last year. I mean, they lost in the divisional round to the Rams, but they were able to come back from a 27-3 deficit, and they almost won that game. So the Buccaneers, I don't want to count this team out. They fought hard, and with Bruce Arians not at the head coach, if the rumors were true that Tom Brady and Bruce Arians were clashing all the time, those clashes won't be there. The offense is going to be ran exactly how Tom Brady wants it, or at least how Tom Brady's comfortable with, because Byron Leftwich and I'm sure Todd Bowles, they're going to give Tom Brady a lot of input. I think those two guys are going to work together. I don't think those guys are clashing personalities, but at the end of the day, they have Tom Brady. He came back. I think the Buccaneers are legit. They might be a top favorite. They may be the favorite in the NFC right now. But the other team that is also, in my opinion, a possible favorite in the NFC is the Los Angeles Rams. They just came off the Super Bowl, and I have zero indications to think that they're going to be a bad team next year. They re-signed Matthew Stafford. He got an extension, so they get to keep their quarterback that they brought in from Detroit and won a Super Bowl in his first year with a legitimate team. So it kind of shows that Matthew Stafford is a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. They have one of the best GMs in all of football. I don't know how Les Snead does it, but whoever accountant that the Rams have, I want every team to have that guy because they work a magic all the time. I mean, they lost Von Miller in free agency, but they were able to bring in a great linebacker, one of the best in the NFL, and Bobby Wagner, who is probably going to be a little bit fired up because of the way that the Seahawks let him go. So now he's going to take out his anger twice a year on the Seahawks. So you're going to have Bobby Wagner playing with fire. You have Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd. You have Jordan Fuller. You have Jalen Ramsey. You have a great defensive core. Offensively for the Rams, they added Allen Robinson. They have Cooper Kupp already on the team. So they have two probably legit #1 guys on their offense right now. They have Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee on their offense. So if you look at the Rams, like, I don't think there's any reason to doubt that the Rams won't make it back to at least the conference championship game. Now, their division is tougher than the Buccaneers, but I mean, what the Rams did last year, Matthew Stafford's first year, that team was great in the playoffs. And so I really do think that if we're looking at the favorites right now, the Rams have been fairly quiet. Like, really nobody's talking about what the Rams have done because other people are making noise. But that's the thing. If people stop talking about the Rams, they're going to be a team that people are sleeping on. They're going to forget that team even exists. And the Rams, they may make a run right back to the Super Bowl. So those are my two favorites to win the NFC before the NFL draft. I have the Buccaneers and the Rams with a few other teams mingled in there that I think can make some noise. But just because of the situations with their team, I don't think they're viable contenders right now. But again, they will make noise. And I would not be surprised if they're tough competition for the Buccaneers and the Rams. But give me your favorites to win the NFC down below before the NFL draft. And I'll see you in the next one.